to the New Jerusalem, sponsored by Harmony House of Deliverance Ministries Incorporated. The Book of Enoch and the Watchers Explained. Yes, we're going to go into this portion of the Book of Enoch that explains in depth the Watchers and their role in the creation and their role as well as leading up to the flood. And I'm Bishop Leonard Ledoux Jr., and I'd like to welcome you to this study as we go forth in it. And I ask that you help us, because this is pretty long, but we're going to give you the answers that you need so that you can understand exactly what the Watchers are and how the Book of Enoch is an important, essential piece to our studies of the Holy Scriptures. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took their wives of all which they chose. This is Enoch and the Watchers. We are going into this because there's some different things that people think about who the sons of God are, and we're going to explain that. Into the biblical canon, but it didn't make it. It should have been part of the canon, and mostly I believe that all the books that were written, that were found, should have made it, because all of the works, I believe, is inspired by God. How can you say that only 66 books is the inspiration of God and the rest aren't? I just don't believe that, and I don't want to, and I'm not going to. I believe that all the words should be taught, and we should be able to take, like the old phrase, eat the meat and spit out the bones, as far as it goes. But if God is in it, He's going to help us out so that we'll be able to make it through this. So I believe that these books are essential, and it explains so much and fills in such holes that are missing that we don't understand on some of the things from the 66. So I believe that this book is essential and needed. According to the apocryphal Book of Enoch, the Watchers were angels stationed on earth by Elohim, God, to watch over the people, like sentinels. In that time, before the flood, some of them became attached to the human woman they saw and abandoned their angelic form to become human so they could marry these women and live among men. The Watchers in the Book of Enoch tells that the ancient times that 200 heavenly watchers rebelled against Elohim in heaven, led by the archangels Semyaza and Azazel. The Watchers came to earth on Mount Harmon, where they mated with human women. Thus resulted in the birth-thirsty hybrid giants known as the Nephilim, and later led to the Great Flood. Now we're going to talk about the Nephilim a little bit, and there's going to be another video that's going to be talking about the Nephilim, but we're going to touch them a little bit in this video here. The first part of the book is about the Watchers, as when you read Enoch 1, because there's 3 books of Enoch, but the main book, Enoch 1, talks about the Watchers, a group of angels sent to earth to watch over the humans. Like I said, it was 200 of those angelic beings that were committed, transgressed to having sex with humans and creating the hybrid race, the Nephilim. Of the Nephilim, it is said that they were giants and savages that endangered and pillaged humanity. It is said that the Watchers taught humans reading, writing, weaponry, cosmetics, sorcery. It taught them about the stars, meteorology, and many of the arts that they were problematic because it robbed humans the opportunity to discover the arts by themselves. They revealed the internal secrets which were preserved for heaven, which men were striving to learn. And the book says, the gods were not pleased about the intervention of the Watchers in human affairs. Now, when it says the gods, it's talking about the rest of the angelic hosts along with Yahweh. The same story of interventionists versus non-interventionists is told in Greek mythology, and the Sumerian mythology, as well as various Asian myths about the old days of mankind. But apparently, there were also experiments in crossbreeding between animals and humans going on at that time. So it was just terrible. The things that they were doing was against what God wanted at that time. The Watchers desired women of men, and the truth is going to be explained. Yes, this is a graphic picture, but it's the truth. There's no use in me trying to act like this is not what happened, because I believe this to be scripture. The Watchers desired women of men. In the days of Jared, when the children of men had first multiplied, beautiful and comely daughters were born to them. The angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them. Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and sire children. They said to one another, I fear you would not all agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin, said Simjaja, who was their leader. Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual cause or curses, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. They all answered. They all swore together and bound themselves by mutual curses upon it. In all, they were 200 who descended to the summit of Mount Harmon, when they called it Mount Harmon, because they had swore and bound themselves by mutual curses upon it. And the list of the leaders are listed at the bottom of who came along with Simjaja in his quest to be with the women. So you see, they were adamant on what they saw, and the women were beautiful, and we know women are beautiful, and that's an issue that we have even today with sexual sin and all the things. It made the angels even fall. Women are powerful and beautiful things. They all took wives, each choosing one, and they began to have sex with them and to defile themselves with them. They taught them charms and enchantments and how to cut roots and angle them with plants, acquire them with plants. The women became pregnant, and they bore great giants who were 4,500 feet tall. The giants consumed all the property of men. When men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. Now, some people think that they have a lot of reasons to believe who these giants could be. Some even believe that the dinosaurs were the products of this, but I don't go that far. I believe that there were giants here and that they were the product of these angels. They began to sin against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish, and to devour one another and drink the blood. Then the earth accused the lawless ones. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and reveled to them all kinds of sins. And the women have bore giants, and the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. Disgusted by all this, Elohim, God, decided to have a great flood to rid the earth of the Nephilim and other ghastly creatures, according to the book of Enoch. Also, I believe this was also considered a purging of the earth, as well as a baptism of the earth to rid it from its evil. The Bible says that the Nephilim are bound in the valleys of the earth, beneath the earth, until the judgment day. So, this is what God, Elohim, had decided he wanted to do to get rid of these beasts. In Genesis 6:1-6, it says, who are the Nephilim? Now, it's here in Genesis 1-6, it kind of touches a little bit on the Nephilim. It just says that they were around, but it doesn't get into detail. So in the book of Enoch kind of goes into it a little bit, and there's other books that describe it as well that we'll be doing in the future. Now it came about when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and as we read this before, that they saw that women were fair. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God, Elohim, came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old men and renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. So this is what was materialized from the angels having sex with the women. Here we see in Numbers, if you go to Numbers 13:30, you can see a little bit more about the Nephilim. It talks a little about it there. Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses said, "We should be all means go up and take possession of it, for we will surely overcome it." But the men who have gone up with him said, "We are not able to go up against that people, but they are too strong for us." So they give out to the sons of Israel a bad report of the land, which they had spied out, saying, "The land through which we have gone is spying it out, is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people whom we saw in it are men of great size. They also we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Enoch are part of the Nephilim, and we became like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight." So see, the Nephilim was still around during the time of Moses. So this was after the flood. So did some of the Nephilim survive the flood? Here we have Genesis 6 and Numbers 13. Pre-flood and post-flood list the term Nephilim. So they have been in the center of discussion for many years, and at this point, the identity of the Nephilim and the sons of God is still being debated in Christian circles. And I'm going to go into a few of what they think they are. There is a popular unbiblical view that the Nephilim are space aliens. Of course, most creationists rightly reject this peculiar view of multiple reasons, and I would too, because I don't believe in that. I believe there are life otherwhere, but I'm not going to say that they were here. We're not going to get into that. So other views that have come out about this. Some believe that the Nephilim were from the descendants of Seth, who was Adam's son, and that there are some minor views as well, such as kings, rulers, and heads of leading family groups as being godly from Psalms 82. But this view has many similarities to the Satire view, but eliminates many of Seth's descendants as merely keeps with the leaders, kings, as well as some other leaders in other tribes are godly. So I would now leave this minor view out and discuss the Satire view, which should encompass it for the most part. Another variation of the Satire view is that these godly men had relations with ungodly women, and their offspring followed after other gods are opposed to God and fell away in tremendous ways. This is called the fallen man view, and there are other minor views as well as other minor non-biblical views, but these are the primary ones we discuss here. I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit. There's a great deal of confusion over the word Nephilim. No one today really knows what it means. It is related to the verb series to fall, nephal, in Hebrew, which is why some direct this to fallen angels, or more appropriately the offspring thereof. However, this also gives strong support to the view that the men had fallen away from God. To me, to be honest with you, I don't see how a man with the evil woman can make a giant. So I would say that it was angelic in my view. It was these two concepts that helped give rise to the various views mentioned above, but many have associated the Nephilim with giants. Giant traits may not have been limited to Nephilim alone, because Goliath, a giant, was not considered a Nephilim. As mentioned, the term Nephilim is unclear in definition. It is related in the verb to fall, and the King James Version translates it as giants from the influence of the Latin Vulgate, early Latin translation by Jerome. These gigantics, as well as the context from Numbers 13. Now let me say this real quick about Jerome. Jerome is the one who was responsible for taking the Y and I out of the Hebrew language and putting the letter J, which thus gives you the name Jesus, Jehovah, and all those names beginning with a J. Let's be clear, the letter J is not part of the Hebrew language, so those names are incorrect. And the context of Genesis 6 does not reveal they were giants. They may have been some influence on the Latin Vulgate, but like I said, his translation, he did a lot of things and confused people with the translation with the King James. And I'm not saying the King James Bible is wrong. I'm saying that he took some letters and names out and translated them to what he wanted them to fit with the Latin language. We got a table with a brief summary of the 4 views that I just discussed. So, I'm going to look at this, and I'm definitely going to go with the first view because I feel that men didn't have the strength. I know they were able to live back then to old ages and 900, so forth and so on, but I feel that it had to be angelic to create those such beings. And as far as the dinosaurs being the Nephilim, that's a possibility, but I just don't think that is true. Here, the fallen angels view again. This is one of the most popular views, and it stems from angels being called the sons of God, or interpreted as such in Job 1:6, 2:1, and 38:7. In fact, if the Nephilim were indeed half human, half fallen angel, then it would give great understanding to the many ancient religious views after Babel and demigods. As pointed out, Nephilim is related to the verb series to fall in Hebrew, giving support to the view that this is related to fallen angels. So it does hold some certain status among biblical scholars. And defenders of this view also find support in 2 key New Testament passages. In 2 Peter 2:1-11, the Apostle Paul wrote, "But first prophets also arose among the people, just as they will also be false teachers among you, who will secretly introduce destructive heresies, even denying the master who brought them, bringing swift destruction upon themselves. And many will follow their sensuality, and because of them, the way of the truth will be mangled or maligned, and is their greed they will exploit you with false words. Their judgments from long ago is not idle, and their destruction is not asleep." So this book of Peter, I said Paul, but it was Peter, is saying that some of the words that we're going to get might be changed because of what man believes and not the truth of what Yahweh has given us to put in there with his inspiration. So we have to be careful. And how do we know this isn't it? Well, that's where faith comes in, because with faith you have to be able to believe or not. So we'll get these answers, but not until we leave this flesh. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to pits of darkness, reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a preacher of righteousness, with 7 others, who, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly, and if he condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to destruction by reducing them to ashes, having made them an example to those who would live ungodly lives thereafter, and if he rescued righteous Lot, oppressed by this sensual conduct of unprincipled men, for by what he saw and heard the righteous men were living among them, felt the righteous soul tormented day after day by their lawless deeds, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from temptation, and to keep the unrighteous under punishment for the day of judgment, and especially those who indulge the flesh in its corrupt desires and despise authority. Daring, self-willed, they do not tremble when they reveal angelic majesties, whereas angels who are greater in might and power do not bring a reveling judgment against them before the Lord. So this is true, all of this. So we must believe, or at least take into consideration this view of the fallen angel concept. Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One spoke, and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said to him, "Go to Noah and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him how he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world." Another book in which the angels sent by God are referring to as the Watchers is the Book of Jubilees, the biblical book of Daniel, and thereon and throughout ancient Jewish lore and legend. In the book of Enoch, the Watchers only became fallen angels after mating with humans and teaching them forbidden and secret knowledge. which they, according to Enoch, were not ready for. So what the watchers did, that was wrong. They went down and they gave them all the secrets. And they weren't supposed to have sex with the women. God did not create angels to be in this capacity. Those are the things that they did wrong. And they had to be punished for that because God was not ready for them or for this to happen. As far as the stuff that they taught the men, creating war and this pestilence and all kinds of things and evil. That's what the watchers did that was wrong. And then they took on wives and began to have sex with them and defiling them. Those things were unacceptable in the eyes of God. But it's funny because God didn't accept it. Those who had to fix it and those who came to him was to tell him were his archangels. And the person that was to give them their punishment was Enoch. He was the one who was to present it to them, not give it to them, but to actually tell them what Yahweh said that their punishment would be. So these sins were wrong because, like I said, the archangel Azizan taught men to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates, and showed them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and how to make bracelets and ornaments. He showed the women how to use their bodies and their eyelids and all this stuff that, that they do now. And certain examples of this is what you see on Facebook, women half naked and doing all these things on Facebook and flatten their eyes with these long eyelashes and so forth and so on. He also gave them enchantments, all these things that was not supposed to be given to them yet. God was going to give to them, but at his time, not their time. He taught them about astrology and all kinds of things that they didn't need to. Each angel did something. Simjaja taught the enchantments of root cutting. Amoros taught the enchantments of astrology and different things that were given to them. The clouds, they learned about the sun and the moon before time. God wanted to give it to them, but not at that time. So the angels took it upon themselves when the wisdom was put into them by God. I know you're saying that they had their own mind, but they didn't, for them to do this. So this is all set by God, and he would have to explain why that he made this happen. The earth will be without inhabitants. And they said one unto another, the voices cried to the gates of heaven, to the holy ones of heaven. The souls of men make their pleas, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. So, like I said, the watchers did a lot of things. They did a lot of things that they weren't supposed to do. And they had to get the penalty of their what they did wrong. Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and gods of the ages. The throne of your glory stands for all the generations of the ages. And your holy and glorious name is blessed for all the ages. Thou said to Yahweh, you have made and have power over all things. All things are naked and open in your sight, and you see all things. Nothing can hide itself from you. So he saw all this going on anyway. It wasn't like he didn't see it. But still, the archangels had to come and tell him what was going on. You see, when Azazel had done this, he had taught the unrighteous on earth and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven and which men were striving to learn. Simjaja, to who you have given authority to rule over these, his associates, has gone with them to the daughters of men upon the earth, and they have slept with women and have defiled themselves and revealed to them all kinds of sins. The women have borne giants, and the whole earth had been filled with blood and unrighteousness by them. Now the souls of those who have died are crying and making their plea to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended and will not cease because of the lawless deeds which are being done on the earth. You know all things before they come to pass, and you see things and suffer them, and do not tell us what we are to do in their regard. So, and then of course it goes into Noah and the baptism of the earth. Like I said, the whole flood was a baptism of the earth. It had to be cleansed and restarted. Yahweh chose Noah and his family to keep the men, to keep man going. He could have took him out as well and just created another man and start everything all over again. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to keep that lineage that he had already with Adam and to continue it forth. And the word deluge is the flood. A deluge is about to come upon the whole earth. So that flood is a baptism of the earth. And it had to get all those negative things off and all the things that were done. So the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. Attribute all sin to him. So could Azazel been another version of Satan? Some believe that he is. Just like Samuel with Lilith and what happened in the garden. Proceed against the bastards as they're deprived, and against the children of fornication. The Lord said to Gabriel, destroy the children of fornication and the children of the watchers. Pit them against each other so that they destroy each other in battle. For they will not have long lives. No request that their fathers make of you shall be granted on their behalf. They hope to live in eternal life, but now each one of them will live 500 years. So, the binding of Simjaja and his associates. Simjaja. Go bind Simjaja and his associates, who have had relations with the women and defiled themselves with all their uncleanness. The Lord said to Michael, and when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth until the day of their judgment and of their consummation, when the eternal judgment is consummated. At this time they shall be led off to the abyss of fire and to the torment of the prison in which they will be confined forever. Whoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from now on will be bound together with them until the end of all generations. Wipe out all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end. Yahweh was upset. He didn't like this. The angels were wrong in what they'd done. So he had to fix it. Then Yahweh spoke to them all. Let the tree of righteousness and truth appear. It shall prove a blessing. The works of righteousness and truth shall be planted in truth and joy for everyone, evermore. The righteous will escape the final judgment and will live until they father thousands of children, all the days of their youth and their old age. They shall live in peace. Then the whole earth will be tilled in righteousness and shall be planted with trees and be full of blessings. And it goes on. Yahweh is going to make it right. Now, do you want to be part of that, or do you want to not? That's your choice that you have to make. The first book of Enoch's mission, as we get into it, it tells you what his mission is. This book is very, very important too, and it's an instructions on how we are to live in the last days as well. Not only what happened with the watchers and what they've done, but it goes into what we must do in the last days, which we will explain later in other videos, future videos. And here we see, like I said, before these things took place, I, Enoch, was hidden, and none of the children of men knew where I was or what had become of me. My activities had to do with the watchers, who called me Enoch the scribe, and my days were spent with the holy ones. I was blessing the Lord of majesty and the King of ages when he spoke to me. Enoch, scribe of righteousness, go declare to the watchers who have left high heaven, the holy eternal place, defiled themselves with women, and done as the children of earth do, taking wives. Tell them that they wrought great destruction on the earth. They shall have no peace, nor forgiveness of sin. As much as they delight in their children, they will see the murders of their beloved ones, and lament over the destruction of their children. Though they make supplication for eternity, they will not attain mercy of peace. So Enoch was told to go down and tell the watchers. He had to go to angels to tell angels what God said he was going to do. He was that reverent with God. And because it was a man sin, he sent him. Azazel, you shall have no peace. I said, a severe sentence has gone forth to put you in bonds. You will not be tolerant or have any rescue or request granted to you, because of the unrighteousness that you have taught, and because of all the works of godliness, unrighteousness, and sin that you have shown to men. So the mission of Enoch basically was to go down and deliver the message to Yahweh, to the angels, the watchers. And they asked him to take the word back, pleading for their life, that they'd be spared. But they would not be, because when you do something against God and he doesn't like it, you have to suffer the wrath of him. And because they were angels, and even though they didn't have free will, and sin was put into their hearts by God, which I can't explain why, so don't ask. But God, all I know is that God created everything. So the sin had to be put in them for them to do it, for his reasons, and he will explain to us when we see him. But it's what was done. So Enoch says, I wrote out your petition, I said, and in my vision it appeared that your petition would not be granted to you for all the days of eternity, and the final judgment has been passed on you. From now on, you shall not ascend into heaven for all eternity, and the decree has gone forth to bind you in bonds of the earth for all the days of the world. You will see the destruction of your beloved sons, and you shall have no pleasure in them. They shall fall before you by the sword. Your petition on their behalf shall not be granted, even though you wept and cried and spoke all the words contained in the petition that I have written. So what Enoch did was he took their petition back up and he took it in a vision to God. When he spoke it out, and then he went in a vision, and God gave him the vision of the answer back to tell the watchers of their fate. And here's just a chart showing you basically what happened from dispensation of when Cain and Abel, Cain was taken out, and how everything led to Noah. Of course, here the chart doesn't show anything about the watchers coming in, but it's there. It says it right here. The men multiplied, and it just wasn't right. It wasn't done correctly, the way God had mandated. And we kind of went over the Nephilim. I'm not going to actually go more over this right now because, like I said, there's going to be a whole video discussing the Nephilim and who they are and what they've done. And we kind of gave you that in this video so far. We just know that they were the offspring, and they created a lot of havoc when they were here on the earth. And again, like I said, some people believe they were the offspring of Seth, but I believe wholeheartedly that the angels, this is the offspring of the angels, and those angels that sinned against Yahweh, and that's where they come from. So I don't see no other way how it could be, because the Seth offspring just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. And here's another chart that shows the same view that we went over earlier. I wholeheartedly believe that this view right here is the correct one. Only because the sons of God being the fallen angels, and like I said, it's the most popular view. here we have some common questions. What about the book of Enoch? The book of Enoch is an ancient book that is attributed to Enoch, who is listed in the lineage of Seth to Noah. So the book of Enoch, Jewish tradition, Josephus has told strongly to the idea that the sons of God were fallen angels and the Nephilim were offspring of such unions. That I believe. So, some people have their own views, and of course science wants to come up with other ways because they don't want to believe in the angels and God and the angelic concept. So there's going to be, to everything you learn out there, even on the internet, there's going to be something that goes against what you've learned. So there's always a positive and a negative side of things, but you have to ask God to give you that discernment to be able to show you what is real and what isn't. So after researching this in more detail than anticipated, I was challenged on many occasions and affirmed that the last view, that the fallen angel view, Satan and are his fallen angels bred with human women and had offspring, may be the best at the point of my studies. Because, however, there may still be problems that I have not had presented to me so far, and the fallible human being dealing with precious little information regarding the sons of God and the Nephilim. I may be wrong, but I don't think so, because there's just too much that goes along with this, and this book explains a lot of the holes that are left in Genesis, explaining who the Nephilim are and how they came about and how the women lay with the men or with the angels. So I just believe that this is the true concept, and I'm going to continue to believe this until I am taken from here. We'll cover the following. We'll get into the vision of Tartarus, and we'll be talking about hell and different places. We'll get into that the next time we come together in our video. So we just want to say God bless you, heaven smile upon you, and we hope that these videos are helping you to get a better understanding of what God wants us to know, because this is God's word. No matter what people try to say, this is the truth, and I'm going to keep on giving it to you.